guys, it's Stoof here from Travel SzN. Welcome back to our channel. As some of you know, we recently returned from a summer vacation in Switzerland. During our time in Switzerland, we took a day to have the Via Ferrata experience, and that's what this video is all about. If you're not familiar with the term Via Ferrata, it comes from the Italian word meaning iron way, and it is an iron path along a cliffside, usually up in the mountains. Some of these Via Ferratas were constructed during World War I. These iron routes were created to help the Italians move their troops and their weapons to higher elevations in the mountains. Via Ferratas are all around Europe. I think there are a couple in the US and Canada as well. I'm recently learning more about this thrilling experience. This was our first time doing a Via Ferrata. And in this video, I'm going to be providing you with some general information about this specific route, the Mürren Via Ferrata in Switzerland. I will also be sharing some helpful stats regarding this specific path. I will be providing information and links to book gear or book a guide to take you on a group experience along this Via Ferrata route. And throughout the whole video, I'm going to show you guys footage from our Via Ferrata experience so you can decide for yourself before you go if this looks like something you'd be comfortable with doing. Without further ado, let's dive into this video about the incredible Mürren to Gimmelwald Via Ferrata. As you may imagine, the Mürren Via Ferrata route begins in the town of Mürren. If you are staying in Lauterbrunnen Valley, you would take a cable car up the mountain and then take a train into the town of Mürren. From the train station, it's a short walk, about a 10-minute walk, to the Intersport Mürren, which is the sport gear rental shop where you can go into the shop at 9 a.m. I believe they open, and you can rent the carabiners, the helmet, and the harness that you will need gear-wise to complete this route. The gear is about 30 Swiss francs to rent for the day. You are welcome to rent this gear and do this Via Ferrata route yourself without a guide, or you're welcome to book a guide to take you along this route with a group of about 6 to 8 other people. The guide experience is about 160 Swiss francs per person. In my opinion, it is totally worth it to have the guide with you for several reasons, and I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more later on in the video. But for now, I want to share some of the stats about this Mürren Via Ferrata. So the Mürren Via Ferrata is 2.2 kilometers distance, translates to 1.4 miles, and it's a one-way route. So you begin the route from the town of Mürren, and you go along the cliff face. There's some hiking through forests. There are tightrope walks over ravines. There are iron rungs along a sheer cliff face with a 1,000-foot drop below you. There are a series of ladders that you'll have to climb down, and there is a Nepal suspension bridge over a big ravine to wrap up your route. Along this route, starting up in Mürren and completing the route in Gimmelwald, you will lose 300 meters elevation. So that is a lot of work on your quads, your hamstrings, your calves. You may also need some upper body strength for going down the ladders. And core strength is helpful as well when you're going over the tight ropes. This specific Via Ferrata is rated a K3 on the German scale. Via Ferratas are scaled on a level of difficulty from 1 to 6. This is a 3 out of 6, so it's technically for experienced people. As I mentioned, this was our first time doing this Via Ferrata, or any Via Ferrata for that matter, and we didn't have any trouble with it. We were sore after from all of the leg muscles that we had to use on the iron rungs and ladders. But if you've never completed a Via Ferrata route before, don't let that dissuade you. This is definitely doable for first-timers. It is not for people with a strong fear of heights. I will throw that in there. This particular route took us about 4 hours to complete. It can take less than that. It really depends on the day and how busy the route is when you get onto the route itself. Because this route is a one-way path and you can't really go around other people that are a little bit slower on certain sections of the route, you can get backed up pretty easily. If someone has a big fear of heights, or if they're just very cautious and taking the path slowly and safely, you might be waiting a bit before the start of a ladder section, or before the start of an iron rung section, or going across a tightrope section. So keep that in mind. With the route taking several hours to complete, I recommend bringing a backpack with you that can firmly stay on your body and isn't going to fall off, and pack some waters, maybe a snack to stay hydrated. It's also very important to have proper traction hiking shoes or climbing shoes while doing this route. The Via Ferrata route itself is free to do. So if you have all of this gear, you're welcome to just go out there and do the Via Ferrata on your own. Most people need to rent the gear or prefer to hire a guide. All right, now that I've provided quite a bit of information about the Mürren Via Ferrata, I want to show you guys our experience, the different features along this path, and just show you how incredibly beautiful the views are from this Via Ferrata. We are getting ready to do our Via Ferrata. I'm very excited. Nate, how you feeling? Nate's a little nervous. Then we started the route, which begins in the town of Mürren. You go through a little tunnel feature, and then on the other side of the tunnel, you are briefed on safety and how to properly clip in and clip out along this entire route. They also provide you with some Via Ferrata etiquette, so you're not getting in anyone's way or kicking any rocks onto your fellow group mates as you're doing the climb. The beginning of the route is very easy. You're in a forested area and it's a couple rungs here and there, kind of more just like a hike with some steeper sections where it's nice to be clipped in. And then you get to the first and most scary part of the route, in my opinion, and that is the iron rungs with the sheer drop down into the valley below you. A little scary. Yeah. Ooh. Once you get past this cliff walk, iron rung area, you hike through a little wooded section again. This part's a little safer feeling, at least. You don't feel like there's a sheer cliff drop on your side like you do along the cliff walk part. And then you'll come to the zip line, where you can zip line over the ravine with Mürrenbach Fall, rushing water down the ravine as you're zip lining across. If you don't have a guide and you just rent gear or just go out and do this route without a guide, you are not permitted to do the zip line. You would have to do the tightrope section, which actually takes you a little closer to Mürren Fall, so you might be able to see the waterfall a little closer up, but you can't get that zip line experience. You continue hiking through the forest. You'll come to some ladder sections. Nate particularly does not like ladders. I think he was a little more uncomfortable on the ladders than on the cliff side. I was fine on the ladders, so it all just depends on your comfort level, if you trust yourself on ladders. So once you get through some of those ladder sections, you continue through the forest a little bit more. Parts of this route are more like a hike through the forest, and other parts are those iron rungs and the ladders. So after that section, you'll make it to the second tightrope. This is a smaller tightrope section than that first one. Also takes you right past a waterfall, tightroping over a little ravine. The tightrope isn't too bad. If you have good balance and core strength, you can zip right through there. If you're uncomfortable with it, you might be wobbly and shaky. Just take your time, you are clipped in. After that second tightrope, you make it to another awesome part of this route, and this is the final big feature where you get to the Nepal suspension bridge. And this bridge is huge over this big ravine valley. 10 people are allowed to be on that bridge at the same time. I will say, when you're going on there, it is shaky because you're feeling movement from the other people on the bridge. And there are sections where it's a little bit difficult to clip in. You have to reach a bit. You don't always keep that center of balance with your arms perfectly out to the sides of you. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to clip in on that Nepal bridge. So take your time there as well. That's the last big feature on the Via Ferrata route. After that, you are just hiking through the forest. You're actually going uphill a bit here at the end, and you end up at the outskirts of the town of Gimmelwald. And that is where, if you have a guide, you just take off your gear and leave it right there, and you're welcome to explore the town, or just take the cable car down from that mountain town of Gimmelwald down into the valley at the town of Steckelberg. From Steckelberg, you can take a bus or walk back to the town of Lauterbrunnen, where you can hop on a train if you were just visiting for the day to do this experience, or if you're staying somewhere down in the valley, then you're back at home base. When we made it to the town of Gimmelwald, we took a little break, had a couple of beers, and took in the gorgeous, gorgeous sight of the mountains across the valley, watching the waterfalls, and just looking at the snow in the mountains.
So, we did the Via Ferrata, and we survived.
We survived.
It wasn't that bad.
Most of it wasn't that bad.
Not too bad.
There's some spots.
Yeah. Now we're gonna look at this beer garden.
We had some pizza and more beer at a little hostel. If we ever came back here, I would love to go stay up there and just spend a little bit more time up in those mountains, because those were some of the most beautiful views I've ever seen in my life. After having lunch and a couple beers, we took the cable car back down to Steckelberg, and we decided to walk back. And on our walk back to Lauterbrunnen, we stopped at Trommelbach Fall, which is a pretty awesome waterfall that is carving out rock inside a cave coming down the mountain. I will have another video with more information about Trommelbach Fall as a link in the description under this video. After watching this video about the Mürren Via Ferrata, you may be wondering if you should try to do this route solo or if you should go with a group and a guide. There are several perks to hiring the guide and going with a group on this hike/climb. If you are inexperienced with Via Ferratas, I definitely recommend going with the guide. They provide helpful information. They do a safety briefing at the beginning of the route to make sure you understand how to correctly clip in your carabiners, making sure you're properly wearing your safety gear and all that good stuff. Once you get started with your group, it also feels a little bit less nerve-wracking when you're with a group of 6 other people that are always right around you. You're never just alone on the side of a cliff. More perks about hiring the guide. One of the best perks, in my opinion, is you are able to zip line in front of Mürren Fall, which is Switzerland's tallest waterfall. If you do not go with a guide, you cannot do the zip line. You have to tightrope across that ravine. And the zip line is pretty cool to do. It's a very smooth, thrilling experience. And the guide will physically set up that zip line functionality with the group when you get there. So you're definitely not able to do the zip line without the guide. Another great perk about going with the guide to do this is when you finish your route, you are in the little village of Gimmelwald, and once you're there, you can just hang out in the town, and then you could take the cable car back down the mountain to Steckelberg. You don't have to return to Mürren to return your gear. If you did not hire a guide, then you do need to walk your gear all the way back up to Mürren, the town. And you would have to take a road or a walking trail farther back up the mountain. You can't go back via the Via Ferrata. All right, guys, so that wraps up our Via Ferrata experience. The Mürren Via Ferrata was our first Via Ferrata experience. I highly recommend this. It is thrilling, it's gorgeous, it's fun, and you have some awesome pictures and videos to show your friends who will think you are insane for doing something like this. As I touched on earlier in the video, if you have a fear of heights or you don't have very good leg strength, core strength, or balance, this may not be the best thing for you to do. Don't let it deter you if you have never completed a Via Ferrata before. In my opinion, this was a pretty good first Via Ferrata experience for us. It had a little bit of everything. It had those ladders, it had the zip line, it had the tightrope walks, it had some iron rungs on the cliffside, and it had some more calming walks through the forest. We had beautiful views of waterfalls and the surrounding mountains. It was an all-around awesome experience. I have links with more information about renting gear or booking a guide in the description under this video. We have more videos about our Switzerland vacation on our channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're interested in catching any of those or any future videos related to our travels. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Thanks for watching and happy travels.